This is going to be a deeply personal video. It's going to be an emotional video for me, one I'm probably going to struggle to get through. But it's something I want to talk about because I'm pretty sure if you are in the grip of a gambling addiction, then it's something that will resonate probably very, very closely with you. Also, it may be motivation for you to get into a recovery, as to never experience these feelings, emotions, and dare I say torment that I suffered for many, many years. I'm going to put a photo up on the screen, and it's just a photo of me. Now, everything I say about the background to this photo will become clear shortly. This is in no way a flex, believe me. Now, that photo was taken on my wife's birthday. It was a particularly fancy hotel. You can see in my hand I've got a glass of scotch. It's one of those hotels where when you go from the bar to dinner, they take your drinks from you, put them on a tray and carry them through for you. I just want to give you the context. It's that place that I went where I'm very, very glad I looked at the menu before randomly just ordering a whiskey, because some of them were sort of £300 a measure, which would have been absolutely devastating to me. Now, none of this I say is because I'm showing off. And the reason I'm going to tell you this is actually quite the opposite. Firstly, I just very quickly want to say hi. Hope you're keeping safe. Hope you're keeping sane. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the channel. As always, there will be a link to my Patreon in the description below. Anyone who signs up over there can DM me. I'm planning to put some extra videos up there. Very much appreciate it. The main reason to sign up there is really just to support me and to support the channel. So if you do that, it's very much appreciated. If you don't want to support me in that way, that's cool. Just like, subscribe, and do all the great YouTube stuff, and I really very much appreciate it. So back to this photo of me looking like a smug git. You'll notice on my wrist there's a watch. Now, the photo is not particularly clear, but that watch is a Tag Heuer, I think it was an Aqua Racer. So why do I mention that? Well, the reason I'm wearing that particular watch isn't because I was a flash git. In fact, quite to the contrary. The reason I'm wearing that particular watch is because the Rolex that normally would have adorned my wrist was currently sitting in cash converters. What happened is I had made a promise to take my wife to this particularly fancy hotel for her birthday. At the time, I was doing very well financially, at least on paper. I had my own business, that was turning over quite a substantial sum, and everyone around me believed I was this big high flyer, this baller. And for that exact reason, I used to wear the Rolex, because that was part and parcel of the image I was trying to portray, part and parcel of the front that I wanted to put onto the world to show just how successful I had been. However, as that photo was taken, the smile masks a whole multitude of emotions and a multitude of sins. I was very much in the grip of a gambling addiction. And as the date of this particular venture to this particularly flash hotel came about, I had lost such a substantial amount of money that I was unable to cover the reservation that I had made. In a moment's panic, what I'd done is I'd taken the watch off my wrist, my Rolex, and I'd gone and pawned it for, I think, £600 or whatever with cash converters. In that photo, where I look so relaxed, so chilled, and I'd like to think exuded an air of sort of success or wealth, there was a plethora of negative thoughts in my head. Now, we always see this, don't we? Particularly when someone ends up taking their own life from depression. We will see these last photos or last videos of them, and quite often they look so relaxed, they look so chilled, they look happy because they are so used to putting on a facade. I know when Chester Bennington died, a video circulated of him the day before he took his own life, with family, playing games, laughing, joking, smiling. And that's because as someone who is suffering from depression or addiction, we become very, very au fait with putting on a facade, and that's what this was. Not just the smile, but the whole thing. The success, the presumed wealth, the air of, of affluence that I was portraying was merely that. It was a mask, and it was a mask to disguise exactly what was going on in my head and in my life. Behind that, there was a wealth of struggles. On paper, like I say, I should be doing very well. My income was substantial, but I had no money. Any money I had was being spent on this facade. Any money I had was sent on these pointless trinkets of success and of wealth to disguise the fact that realistically I had nothing. So aside from the mental turmoil of keeping up appearances, I had something, and this is the core of what I want to talk about. I had an incessant, constant constant churning in my mind, constantly doing sums, maths, calculating numbers, which was I could not switch off. I used to lay awake with these thoughts churning, crunching numbers, working things out in my head for hours at a time. It used to cause me a distinct lack of sleep. I used to spend most of my waking hours in some way, shape or form juggling numbers just to keep up appearances. It was the true sense of robbing Peter to pay Paul. In that very instance, in that very photo where I looked so happy, so smug, so relaxed, so carefree, I guarantee my brain was looking further down the line thinking, right, okay, it's 2 weeks, until I get X amount come in, certain invoice be paid. When that comes in, if I take X amount of money, I can pay this, I can pay that person back. Then if I spend another 2 weeks not spending any money on that, I can then get the watch back. And all these things, right? Now that is just a purely personal example and just a snapshot of the type of thought processes and the type of calculations my brain would never ever stop doing. I actually experienced it recently, ironically, around my wife's birthday again. Now, this wasn't because of gambling. This is because now we have joint funds, joint accounts, and I had to try and work out how I was able to fund the things I wanted to do for her birthday, fund her presents, without actually drawing upon the joint accounts where she would be, basically told what I was spending money on. And I found myself just fleetingly, and albeit in a totally different situation, going through the same thought processes. Well, how do I get money? Where am I going to get that to pay for that? And it just took me back to years and years of my life, which was spent thinking, unable to switch off these thoughts in my brain. Not the thoughts of loss, not the thoughts of what could have been, not the I should have spent that money on something better, but rather what am I going to do now? And constantly doing balance sheets of, yeah, exactly that. If I get this money coming, I've got a bit coming in from over here. If I sell that, then that will help me pay that. And then when I've paid my mate Dave back the money I owe him, then I can then maybe borrow some money from Steve, and that will help me get my watch back. Because ultimately, and I'm going back to this exact moment now, if I didn't manage to redeem the Rolex from Cash Converters, ultimately, look, if it was just me, it was a personal level, it wouldn't matter. It's a trinket of wealth that comes and goes, There's no point in having status symbols when you have internally no status. There's no point projecting a positive, affluent, successful image on the world when you know quite to the contrary. It is a lie. And it's not just a lie to those around you who ultimately probably couldn't care less. It is a lie to yourself. It is a way of disguising yourself from your own conscience. But I knew in that instant that if I couldn't do these sums, couldn't get the money together to get my watch back out of Cash Converters, couldn't get that Rolex back on my wrist, then after a certain period of time it would be noticed. I would have made such a big deal about getting this arbitrary bloody thing on my wrist to show this success that its absence would duly be noted. And more importantly, it would duly be noted by the people closest to me, who would then question the situation that I was in that would have had to make me sell or part with something that I'd made such a fuss about attaining, such a poignant symbol of perceived success that I would then part with. And then that's when the lies, the facade, and the secrecy that enables and perpetuates our gambling addiction would have started to come unravelled. Why am I talking about all of this? Well, firstly, it's just put out there that, look, if someone looks smug, it looks like they've got it all together on the surface, if they look like they're successful, if they look like they're doing well, that doesn't mean they are. It doesn't mean that if they do speak up at some instance about particular problems, that you should dismiss them. Sometimes the people who are suffering the most are the ones who put on the best disguise. Sometimes the people who are most depressed, suffering from addiction or depression, are the ones that smile and laugh and joke along with everyone else, because they are hiding the pain in their soul. But also, the more practical thing that I'd like you to get from this video is that if this is you, then you're not alone. But also, if you get into recovery, okay, now, again, I spoke recently, I'm not speaking from a position of a high horse. I'm not speaking from a pedestal, because if you speak from a pedestal, someone will come and sweep that pedestal away from you. You'll end up on the ground, you're going to end up broken and back to square one, and nobody's going to want to help the smug git you had become. All right. But what I do want to say, if you need extra motivation to get into recovery and maintain a lasting recovery from gambling addiction, then the relief, the contentment, the satisfaction The sheer ability to switch off that little voice in your brain that will not shut up about your finances, about your balance sheet, doing maths at 3 o'clock in the morning in your head because you don't know how you're going to pay for X, Y, Z, and robbing Peter to pay Paul. The shame of having to consistently ask people to whom you are presenting an air of success and of affluence, asking those very same people that you are flexing on for a small short-term loan because you simply cannot maintain your lifestyle without it. Live a humble lifestyle, and then you'll find that over time you will be afforded the things that you presented just to disguise your, the situation you're truly in. I hope if you're in that situation that resonates with you and that you know that you're not alone. There are lots and lots of people, not just gamblers, but people going through that day after day after day, covering up their emotions with a facade of either success or of happiness. If you're in that position, then believe me, there is a better life where you no longer have to put on a facade, where you can wear an old shirt and a scabby vest and not worry about what people think of you, because you know what you think of you, and what you think of you is far more important than anyone else who probably couldn't give a shit where they're wearing a £8 Casio or a 20 grand Rolex. Doesn't matter. All right. Stay safe, stay sane, look after yourselves. Subscribe to Patreon if you want to support me, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take it easy, everyone.